Can you comment today on the interest rate hike and whether or not the comment that there might be a recession coming in January? What are your thoughts on that, and what are you planning for?
Well, I think obviously Canadians are worried both about inflation, rising cost of food and prices on everything, and on the issue of rising interest rates, which will squeeze them in their mortgages and their rent and so many different things. That's why we're putting forward a concrete package that's going to help millions of Canadians, 11 million households with a GST rebate that should be landing in the coming weeks. Support for dental, support for low-income renters that we hope the Conservatives are going to support. It's time for all of us to work together and make sure we're supporting Canadians.
But what about this idea that we're very likely to have a recession in 2023? How are we preparing for that?
All we have to do is listen to Canadians who are saying how worried they are about the coming challenges. That's why we're delivering on the kinds of supports that are going to make a huge difference. We're going to continue to work with all parties in this House to make sure we're delivering concrete help like the GST rebate, like support for rental, like support for dental.
You've received a report from the Competition Bureau about the proposed merger between WestJet and Sunwing. Yeah. There are serious concerns in that report. What do you think about it?
First of all, I want to thank the Commissioner for the work that they've done. It is important for them to complete their study and offer their report to me and to Canadians. Transport Canada is currently going through the review. They're doing their own assessment, and then they'll be bringing me a recommendation. But I take the report very seriously, and I'll wait to see the entire assessment by Transport Canada and make a decision according to the process. I'm going to follow the process that is set out by the law.
And obviously the concerns are that prices will go up for consumers. Is that unavoidable if these two entities merge?
Let me be very clear. My primary objective is to have a safe aviation sector, but also a competitive aviation sector. So that will remain my priority as I am examining the decision. I'll follow the process, but again, I want a safe sector and a competitive sector.
You said you're waiting for recommendations. I was under the impression that there were already recommendations as part of this report. Recommendations, are you weighing those recommendations now, or are you still waiting for them?
So there's recommendations from the Competition Commissioner, but there's recommendations from Transport Canada's officials that have not come to me yet. So they're doing their own assessment, and once I collect the recommendations from the Competition Commissioner and Transport Canada, I'll make a decision.
When can we expect the decision to be made?
I don't think Transport Canada, they have till December, I think, to provide me the recommendation, but I'm not sure when the law sets out the deadline. I can get back to you on that, but I'll follow the process.
That'd be appreciated.
I'll follow the process.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Do you think it should be optional?
I don't happen to think it should be optional.
Why do you think it should stay mandatory?
We're a constitutional monarchy. That's the way it is.
I think the oath of the way it is just fine.
Why do you think it has to stay mandatory?
We're part of the Commonwealth, and I think what's more absurd is members who are elected vowing to separate from Canada take their seats here. If they had any principles, they would win elections and do what they've done in other parliaments and refuse to take their seats, but they want the best of both worlds. They want to press their case in a federal parliament and then try to tear it down.
I asked you about the MP oath to the monarchy. Do you think that it should stay mandatory or be
God
optional?
save the king.
Pensez-vous que le serment à la monarchie devrait être optionnel? Facultatif, pardon.
Oui, tout à fait.
Oui, vous êtes d'accord avec ça?
Oui.
Pourquoi?
Pour laisser le choix à chaque personne en fonction de ses convictions. Il y a des gens qui ont un malaise avec ce serment-là, puis je peux très bien le comprendre. Alors, je pense qu'on veut servir nos citoyens à la base de notre circonscription. Ça ne devrait pas être un enjeu pour être ici à la Chambre des communes.
Où étiez-vous à l'aise quand vous avez prêté serment?
Sincèrement, moi, j'avais aucun problème à le faire.
Okay, merci.
Merci.
Just a Surgeon General comment now, Sunwing Canada repatriating two Canadian women who were in the Syrian detention facility.
So, of course, the New Democrats have been calling on the Government of Canada to repatriate Canadian citizens for years now. It's good to see that these two women and these two children have been repatriated. It is far too late. There are still dozens of Canadians, including Canadian children, who are living in appalling conditions in northern Syria. The Government of Canada has said that it is impossible to repatriate these Canadians, and I think what we see today, when we see two women and two children being repatriated repatriated is that it is very possible, that Canada has always had the ability. The Canadian government has made the decision not to repatriate Canadian citizens. And that's very, very disappointing.
Canada also welcomed Yazidi refugees who were enslaved by that organization, whose families were killed by that organization. So do you have any concerns about them now and how they might feel being told they're here in a safe haven and now they see people from that organization being brought back into Canada? And do you think that Canada should bring back people who it's not yet in a position to prosecute?
So first of all, I want to just point out that many of the people who are in northern Syria are children. They are utterly innocent of any crime. These are Canadian children living in abhorrent conditions. Their lives are at risk, and they are children. So they can be guilty of no crimes. That's the way our judicial system works. In terms of other Canadian citizens that are being repatriated or that need to be repatriated back to Canada, we have a judicial system. We have a system so that we can try people if they are charged with terrorism or other charges. Our judicial system should be charged. They should be held accountable, but they should be held accountable in Canada with our Canadian judicial system.
What do you get the overall timing? Because, of course, in the current policy, there's the exception to bring people back given extraordinary circumstances, like the case we're seeing with Ms. Coleman, where you choose that you're deathly ill, can't get the proper care in Syria. That's why she's coming back. The other woman I guess also qualifies somehow under this framework because of the extraordinary circumstances. Just with this mechanism in place, do you think there's really any hope for the people to be brought back at some point?
It's been years, and the government has failed to act. It's failed to live up to its obligations. And I have to say that they continually say it's not possible to do. You know, we speak about these particular instances and how there is health concerns and there is extenuating circumstances, but I think it is also very, very clear that none of the Canadians living in these camps in northern Syria have access to adequate nutrition, adequate health care, adequate consular services in any way. You know, other countries around the world have brought their citizens back and then they have held them accountable. Canada is choosing not to do that. The Canadian government is making a very deliberate choice. I expect that they will not continue to do this because it has taken so long to even get this very small number brought forward. But I do want to reiterate, these are Canadian children. That there is very clearly discrimination happening. There is very clearly a different response to what is happening in northern Syria than what is happening with other populations around the world. And the Canadian government needs to be held accountable for the fact that Canadian children's lives are at risk and they are doing nothing to protect them.
We heard from Minister Fraser this morning that not all of these children may actually qualify for Canadian citizenship, but there's actually sort of two classes of Canadian citizens. One born here automatically confers citizenship on a child. A person who acquired Canadian citizenship as an immigrant may not be able to do that. So it may be that some of these children don't qualify. What are your thoughts on that?
As a Canadian citizen, I categorically reject that there are two types of Canadian citizens. Many Canadian citizens come from somewhere else. Many Canadian citizens are immigrants, come from different backgrounds. We are all Canadian citizens, and all Canadian citizens are entitled to the same rights, the same privileges, the same opportunities.
Secretary Blinken is here tomorrow, and he's likely to ask Canada to put up a force to dislodge the gangs that are blockading Port-au-Prince and the oil terminals there. What do you think Canada should do? Should Canada get involved in a military mission?
I have released a statement on Haiti, and what I think is that Canada should listen to what Haitians are asking for. The Haitian people are asking for Canada to not provide that military intervention, that there are other things that the Haitian people have been asking for. That's what we need to do for Haiti. You know, it's very, very important that we listen to Haitians on the ground, that we support them in their work.
And how would Canada get aid? How could Canada get aid into Haiti with the ports blockaded by armed gangs?
So at this point, what we're asking for is that the people of Haiti lead in the democratic reform of their country, that they actually lead going forward. Now, absolutely, we want as much humanitarian assistance to be getting to Haiti right now to deal with these horrific things like the cholera outbreak that we are seeing. You know, we've heard statements from organizations like Médecins Sans Frontières that are doing incredible work that can help there. But for us to do a military intervention at this time is inappropriate. Thank you.
Bonjour, je viens vous parler aujourd'hui pour une situation qui est extrêmement préoccupante. On savait que notre système de santé est en crise depuis des mois, depuis des années, mais particulièrement au Québec, la situation est maintenant absolument catastrophique. Les données puis les chiffres les plus récents sur le taux d'occupation des urgences dans les hôpitaux québécois est vraiment effarant. On parle d'une moyenne de 123 %, mais il y a des urgences qui sont à des taux d'occupation de 150 200 250 Ça a des conséquences sur la santé des êtres humains au Québec. Il y a des centaines de personnes qui se font renvoyer à tous les jours chez eux avant d'avoir pu voir un médecin. Il y a des gens qui sont en détresse. Il y a des gens qui meurent à cause de l'attente dans les urgences. Puis il y a du personnel de santé qui est en détresse, évidemment, en même temps, parce qu'ils ne sont pas capables de faire leur travail, ils ne sont pas capables de soigner les gens. Alors, ça crée beaucoup d'angoisse, de désespoir, puis c'est vraiment quelque chose sur lequel il faut qu'on agisse rapidement. Des vies sont en danger, puis on risque de perdre encore plus d'employés du système de santé qui sont découragés puis qui quittent les hôpitaux en ce moment. Alors, qu'est-ce que fait le gouvernement Trudeau depuis des années sur les transferts en santé? Absolument rien. Il est aux abonnés absents. Il refuse même de rencontrer les premiers ministres des provinces pour discuter des transferts en santé. Alors, ce que je demande aujourd'hui, ce que le NPD demande, c'est que le gouvernement libéral de Justin Trudeau s'assoie avec les premiers ministres des provinces pour discuter de la situation de notre système de santé et des transferts fédéraux en santé. Il faut augmenter les transferts de manière stable et permanente pour donner de l'oxygène aux provinces, mais surtout à notre personnel soignant et aux malades.
Doug Ford issue on it. Yeah, I know. I wanted to get the NDP's take on this. Doug Ford is arguing that he shouldn't have to appear because it's a federal inquiry into a federal application of the Emergencies Act. Do you think that there's any merit to that argument?
I don't think there's any merit to that argument. I think, if you're responsible, you show up, you answer questions, and you have the mandate from the people to be transparent and to answer questions. So I completely disagree with this position. Moi, ça fait des années que je travaille avec des groupes au Québec sur le rapatriement d'enfants qui sont citoyens canadiens, qui sont pris dans des camps de réfugiés en Syrie. Je pense que c'est une responsabilité morale du gouvernement fédéral que ces enfants-là puissent avoir une perspective d'avenir puis une vie intéressante ici. S'il faut rapatrier leurs parents ou un des deux parents pour le faire, je pense que c'est correct aussi dans l'intérêt des enfants. Ensuite de ça, s'il y a des enquêtes à avoir sur la sécurité, on a un système policier, on a un système judiciaire qui fera leur travail.
Est-ce que vous avez prêté serment à la reine? Étiez-vous sincère?
Oui, j'étais absolument sincère dans ma volonté de servir la population de Rosemont-Petite-Patrie, puis servir les gens, puis d'être capable de venir ici au Parlement faire le travail qu'on m'a demandé de faire pour améliorer les conditions de vie et les conditions de travail des gens. C'est sincère envers tout ce qu'il faut faire pour être capable de faire mon travail efficacement. Ça fait 11 ans que je le fais, puis je vais continuer à le faire tant que les gens de Rosemont-Petite-Patrie vont vouloir.
Si un député souvent élu devrait être expulsé de la Chambre des communes si son serment n'est pas sincère.
Je pense que le président de la Chambre a été clair là-dessus, que ce n'était pas le mandat de son bureau d'être capable de juger ça. Je pense que c'est chaque élu, en son âme et conscience, doit gérer ça.
That's not how the rules work, though. Would you support expelling an MP who just refuses to take the oath?
I think that with the rules that we have right now, if you don't do that, you cannot have your seat. After that, we can have discussions if the rules are right or not. But I don't think an MP should be able to sit if he doesn't do what is required to do. But once it's done, who are we to judge if the person was, completely sincere or half sincere, or maybe he was trying to avoid that? I think it's a personal, point of view and position on this.
So if a new Democrat is elected in the next election and comes here and says, I want to swear to Canada, I want to swear to the people of my riding, but I don't want to swear to the Queen who lives in another country, would you support that MP not being able to take this?
I think it's an argument that can be made, and it's reasonable. But we cannot change the rules during an election or after an election. I think we have to abide.
Si le proposed rule changes retirer le serment au roi à Ottawa, seriez-vous prêt à l'appuyer?
Je serais tout à fait prêt à l'étudier. Je serais tout à fait prêt à regarder ce qu'il y a dans ce projet de loi-là. Puis je pense que ça serait, je ne vais pas vous dire hypothétiquement un vote sur un projet de loi hypothétique que je n'ai pas vu encore. Ça fait une couple d'années que je suis ici, là, j'essaie de ne pas répondre à ces questions-là.
Le
What about the rule changes from the Bloc Québécois? We're saying
What?
they'd like to change that rule that
If-
MPs shouldn't have to swear
You know-
to a foreign monarch. If there was a missed opportunity when the new king came in.
You know, if they want to table a bill about that, we will study it, we will judge it on its merit. Personally, and for the NDP, we have to work on much more prescient issues. You know, recession is coming, inflation, you know, workers who are losing their job, they don't have access to AI. I think there's a lot of other priorities for a progressist MP like me that I want to put forward.
Le recensement
Oui.
dit maintenant que près d'un quart de la population est issue de l'immigration, que c'est la plus forte proportion des pays du G7 et qu'on n'a pas vu ça depuis la Confédération. Vous réagissez comment à ça?
Bien, je pense que le Canada et le Québec sont des endroits d'immigration. Je ne suis pas surpris. En même temps, ça fait des semaines puis des mois qu'on a un problème de pénurie de main-d'œuvre. Alors, je pense que c'est une manière aussi d'attirer des travailleurs, des travailleuses qui vont être capables de répondre aux besoins de nos entreprises. Puis moi, je suis très content d'avoir plein de nouveaux arrivants. J'en ai des centaines par année dans Rosemont, la petite patrie. Puis bientôt, je vais faire un brunch avec eux, d'ailleurs, pour les féliciter d'avoir obtenu leur citoyenneté.
Et finalement, votre réaction à la hausse du directeur?
Je pense que le chef du NPD, Jack Meeting, a été clair dans la lettre qu'il a envoyée au premier ministre sur le fait que le gouvernement fédéral a une responsabilité dans le mandat de la Banque du Canada, qui est un mandat extrêmement étroit qui vise juste la lutte à l'inflation, mais qui oublie l'aide à l'emploi puis à l'économie. Donc, peut-être qu'il y a un travail, une responsabilité du gouvernement libéral là-dedans. Puis ce qu'on dit aussi, c'est que s'il y a une récession qui s'en vient avec des taux d'intérêt qui vont monter, bien, peut-être qu'il y a encore plus urgence de réformer le régime d'assurance-emploi, qui est complètement brisé aujourd'hui, puis que les libéraux avaient promis de réformer, puis qu'ils n'ont pas fait encore. Merci à vous.